How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Portland, Oregon Mayor Ted Wheeler blaming Donald Trump and the federal agents for all the riots that are happening every night in their city. Now, this particular story is crazy, but before we get into it, let's roll the clip. In this clip, you'll see the mayor give his explanation as to why Trump was responsible for the riots that are happening and why the agents shouldn't be there, all this, that, and the third. After we get done watching that, I'll talk about what he said. I'll give you some more context. Then I give you my 2 cents, my deep detail analysis, and then I wrap it on up with a nice bow on top. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
The words and actions from President Trump and the Department of Homeland Security have shown that this is an attack on our democracy. I stand with our senators, representatives, and our state, county, and city leaders in denouncing their presence. Over the past week, President Trump has used our city as a staging ground to further his political agenda, igniting his base to cause further divisiveness, and in doing so, endangering Portlanders. President Trump has gone so far as vowing that federal law enforcement will, quote, dominate, unquote, protesters and mobilize federal agencies to operate in cities. This is an explicit abuse of power and places federal officers and Oregonians in danger. Mr. President, federal agencies should never be used as your own personal army. Let's be clear, this is not political theater. This is far more dangerous than that. We have federal officers on our streets further escalating tensions and causing harm to Portlanders right now. Mr. President, we see right through you. We see what you're doing. So do us a favor. Keep your troops in your own buildings or have them leave our city.
My question is for the mayor. The federal government says that they wouldn't have come into the city if city leaders had gotten a handle on the riots. What's your plan to get a handle on the violence? And you say that we can handle it better than the feds can, but we haven't heard or seen a plan to stop vandalism or the riots even prior to the federal government or federal officers getting into town.
And what we saw was the numbers were dwindling, the energy in the crowd was decreasing, and people were moving elsewhere to do other things. Then the feds came in on the heels of some really inflammatory public messaging coming out of Washington, D.C., from the president directly, as well as the Department of Homeland Security, and they blew the whole thing back up again.
All right, so you saw that, you heard that. Now, I'm not really sure where to begin. Ted Wheeler, are you serious? Are you really serious? First things first, the riots that are happening in Portland, Oregon every night have been going on for the past at least 5 weeks, the greater part of 2 months. So now at like the 0 hour in the past, few days, a week or so, that the federal agents been there, you want to blame them for that? I mean, why don't you blame the actual source of the problem? It's the BLM, Antifa, George Soros, all this outside money. Why don't you blame them for the constant chaos happening in your city? Okay, how about the lax rules on drugs? A lot of these people are probably high on drugs, probably been high on drugs. You got a general air of lawlessness in the city because let's not forget, back in 2018, you had city officials encouraging violence against the federal agents because of this whole, Occupy ICE movement. Remember that? So this kind of, this air of lawlessness and disobedience and not wanting to abide by the rules of the country has been going on for a very long time. And it's been sanctioned by the city officials themselves, Ted Wheeler being part of it. I think Ted Wheeler kind of exposed himself as the chief Antifa leader, the chief Black Lives Matter leader. Ted Wheeler is like an NPC, and you could see him in all these BLM style protests, directing the traffic and directing the so-called action, all the riots and the insurrectionist behavior. Okay, so to blame Trump is just crazy. To blame the federal agents is crazy. And then he was like, okay, well, before the federal agents came, the riots were dying down. And when they came in, things sparked back up. What was the actual plan? to just let the riots keep going until they just stop being as bad, to let everybody just be out there doing whatever they want to do. So if somebody gets shot and killed, seriously injured, permanently injured, then it's no big problem because it's all part of an effort to try and just let things kind of die out slowly. I'm not sure what the plan was, but whatever the plan was, it wasn't really working at all because you were still having the riots. Okay, he admitted to that. He was saying, oh, there was less action, but there still is action. So you have not 1 week, not 2 weeks, not 3 weeks, not 4 weeks, but 5 weeks straight of continued riots, chaos, destruction, and varying levels of destruction. And that's a good thing. You want to keep that going for how long? The federal agents at a certain point got to come in and restore law and order if you don't want to. But you know what? This is kind of what I saw happening when Trump intervened with the federal agents. I said it. What did I say before in other videos? I was like, they're going to say Trump's using this personal army to push forward his narrative, to push forward whatever he wants to do. He's usurping our authority. I knew that would be what they said. And he said exactly that. His personal army. I knew he would say that. I think they want to push more against Trump than they want to have safety for their own citizens. And that's crazy. This is a ridiculous thing, but this is what Democratic cities do. I saw Trump talking to Chris Wallace over on Fox News, which I don't even know what happens to that channel. I mean, Fox News is pretty good sometimes, but a guy like Chris Wallace and Neil Cavuto, I don't know what they got going on. But anyway, Chris was asking him about all the riots and the protests happening across the country in a lot of these cities. And Trump was trying to tell him, like, hey, you're talking about Democrat run, Democrat operated. That's what they're going to do. And then Chris, of course, says, well, they've been that way, sir. They've been that way. Why so bad now? It's like, come on, man. You know what's going on. You have an election happening. So they're trying to just create general anarchy, Marxism all across the nation to push forward whatever they want to push forward, which is communism, have everybody kind of like equally poor, messed up, high on drugs. They want to push that forward. They want to defund the police. And of course, when you defund the police or even speak about defunding the police, you're going to reduce police morale. You're going to reduce the amount of police that are out there on the streets being able to defend citizens, being able to proactively fight against crime. Therefore, you're going to have more crime. This is a very easy thing to understand. You're having it going on right now in Portland. And the video I did about the black officer exposing these so-called BLM protests as mostly white. And if you've not seen that, I'll link to it in the box. But in that video, you may not have caught where he was like, well, I was doing X, Y, and Z, but then they did cuts. Okay, so the cuts are going to make a difference immediately. Even talking about doing cuts will make a difference to morale. If you know that you're working the job, you've been doing it for a long time, and then tomorrow it might not be there, or you might not get the money that you want there, or you might not get that raise, or you might, your job is kind of like insecure. Now it's like, what's the point? What am I even doing? I'm out here fighting for my community and fighting for my city, and then I get no kind of backup, no kind of help, no kind of nothing. All right. You want to go out there and pull your gun because it's part of your job to defend people and to defend yourself. You might get sent to jail. You might go all the way up to the big house, make big rocks and the little rocks. Why would you want to put yourself through that when you don't have to? You just stay in your squad car and play Pokemon Go and chill rather than going out there and fighting crime. What's the point in fighting crime when nobody has my back, when things go wrong and somebody's got to end up dead? You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, this whole thing with Portland and Chicago and New York and anywhere else where you're having all these kind of so-called protests, really riots, insurrections, are the fault of the cities. This whole fiasco with Trump and the federal agents just highlights that fact. I've been saying that people say, well, Trump could do more. Trump could send out federal agents. But then what happens when you get kickback from the leaders in the state where you send the federal agents to? Okay, the mayor, the governor, senators, congressmen, city council, everybody says, don't come here. We don't want you here. And the people on the ground, they want to get upset too, talking about, oh, you can't be here. Don't come here. You got the ACLU suing over the whole situation. It's like, so what do you do? All right. At a certain point, people just got to live with what they live with. They got to have leadership that they voted in. And it's sad because you got innocent people that live in these places like Portland, San Francisco, California, Los Angeles. They live in these places and they don't think the same way as leadership. They did not vote for Eric Garcetti or Ted Wheeler or a Kashama Savant up there in Freata, Washington, or the mayor, Jenny from the Block Durkin, or the governor, Jay Inslee. They didn't vote for these people, but now they got to be up under their rule. And it's unfortunate, but it has to be that way because that is who has to have the most impact on what's going on around you. All right. So I think anybody watching this as I close should understand how important local election and local voting is, because Trump can do a lot from the federal level, but he can't do that much. What impacts you the most on your day-to-day, just walking and talking around your particular neighborhood, is your local voting, local elections. All right. That's going to be the key thing. Don't be voting for a guy like Ted Wheeler and then have him go on TV talking about, oh, they can't arrest us and they shouldn't be using unmarked squad cars. Don't vote for a weenie like that no more. Vote for stand-up people that have your best interests at heart, not just their own best interests at heart, and not just interests of, big money, outside, big time, leftist, far leftist, political, liberal, extremist money. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you think that Ted Wheeler was correct when he said that Trump shouldn't have brought the federal agents because they inflamed the tensions in the city? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. Or was he incorrect? How about the claim of, well, he was the one, he was to blame when the riots had been going on for 5 straight weeks? I mean, if you got riots every night for 5 weeks, obviously something that you're doing ain't really right. All right. At a certain point, that should get squashed on the first night, maybe second night. But you're talking about how many nights? 5 weeks of nights this is going on. At a certain point, you got to bring people in to stop the madness. I think that the federals will be able to squash this sooner than later. People are getting arrested in unmarked squad cars and whatnot. So I think the ringleaders, those that are controlling the whole situation, I think they're getting arrested. So you're going to see less of this action happening because it is orchestrated. It is led. It's not just, random people out there doing things. You have random people that are out there, but they're being led by a more organized type of group. And once you get the leaders of the organization, the big time rabble rousers out of the equation, you're going to see the whole thing kind of fall apart. What they say, kill the head, the body's dead. That's what's going on here. Hopefully that happens sooner rather than later for the safety of the citizens of Portland, Oregon, and all across the United States. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.